Order. Order. It's time for questions. The Executive Office. Start with list of questions. Nicole Jerry Carroll.
Question 1.
Minister.
As I've publicly stated as First Minister, I have taken the decision not to travel to Washington DC over the St Patrick's Day period this year. Junior Minister Riley will also not be travelling to Washington, but along with Junior Minister Cameron, she will be travelling to Brussels to engage in St Patrick's Day events with key stakeholders, undertaking a programme of engagements that I'm sure both Junior Ministers will be happy to update members on after their visit. The Deputy First Minister and I are joining an NI Chamber Commerce Trade delegation to North Carolina next week, where we'll both be working hard to encourage investment here, to grow connections and to deliver on a prosperity agenda as outlined in the new programme for government. And you'll also be aware that the Deputy First Minister is travelling to Washington to undertake a series of engagements there also.
Mr. Carroll.
Thank you. I welcome the decision not to go to the White House this St Patrick's Day and to pay tribute to all activists who put pressure on Sinn Féin and other parties not to go. Can I ask the First Minister why is she allowing the Deputy First Minister to go to the White House this St Patrick's Day, and would she join the calls to say that the Taoiseach and the Taoiseach both should not go to the White House this Patrick's Day?
Well, I've taken the decision as First Minister not to attend events in the White House this year. That's my decision. A decision I don't take lightly, but a decision I've taken as a principal stance because I believe it's the right thing to do at this moment in time. I think there are times whenever there's responsibility in all of us to call out injustice, and this was that moment. So I'm very comfortable with my decision, equally comfortable with the fact that the Deputy First Minister has a different view and will travel to be part of the White House reception and other events this year. That's entirely her call, and I'm comfortable enough with that decision. Also, I think when it comes to the Taoiseach, I think it's a different offering insofar as the Taoiseach is uniquely in a position where he himself will have the opportunity to engage directly with the US President, and that's an opportunity that he has to take because only he will have that opportunity to have that one-on-one time, and perhaps he can, and I hope that he does, take the opportunity to drive home the message, the depth of feeling that's felt right across Ireland in terms of how people feel about what's happening in Palestine. The recent commentary by the US administration in particular in terms of the taking of Palestinian lands, the removal of the Palestinian people off their lands, the fact that they have moved away from a two-state solution, which is a solution that we all want to see achieved, is something that he needs to be very firm on in terms of any engagement with the US President.
Gillian Armstrong.
Could I ask if it would be possible for a list of the invitations received by both the First Minister and Deputy First Minister in the week around St Patrick's Day? I know you've outlined that there are certain meetings that you want to have, but the invitations that actually came into your offices?
Sure. So the invitations that have been received to date include the Northern Ireland Council for Voluntary Action Leadership Forum, the Ireland Fund's National Gala, the US Speakers Luncheon, the Washington Ireland programme, the WIP programme, which members will be familiar with, the Ulster University breakfast event, and then just over the weekend, late Saturday night, the White House reception invite as well.
Steve McLaughlin.
First Minister, given your answer there, do you regret going to the US last year?
No, I don't. I think that it's important that at moments in time that we take our opportunity to make a stance, and this was that time. And I think the fundamental difference is that the US administration have now moved away from what was a united two-state solution, which we all want to see, peace and security for the Palestinians, but peace and security for the Israelis. We want to see that solution found, and the only way you'll do that is actually to have dialogue and involve all partners. Unfortunately, that is not the view of this US administration and this new president. They have taken the decision to move towards the mass expulsion of the Palestinian people. They've taken a decision to seize Palestinian lands. They've taken a decision to move away from that united position of a two-state solution. So I think that for me, at this moment in time, this is not about politics, this is about humanity, and this is about doing the right thing.
Robinson.
The First Minister not agree that having good relations with the US administration, regardless of which party occupies the White House, is crucially important to the economy of this province, both in terms of FDI and those local companies wishing to set up in the United States?
Well, I think we can do more than one thing at once. I think I can take the principal stance that I believe in, but I also believe very strongly in our strong roots with the US, and I think particularly for our economic prosperity. I think that's really important. So those roots run deep, and it's important that we continue to nurture those roots. It's also important that we continue to look for opportunities for our economy, and that's why over the course of the next week, both myself and the Deputy First Minister will be in North Carolina, very much on an economic mission. Also alongside that, our Economy Minister will be in Boston and New York with Invest NI, again about drumming up trade and saying that we're very much open for business. So I believe that we can continue to further our links both economically in terms of prosperity, growing our economy, creating jobs, creating investment, doing all those things, whilst also on this occasion me taking the principal position that I have taken.
Timothy Gosson.
First Minister, I'm wondering, will you take this opportunity to inform the House and share with us all the cost of the trip to Washington for St Patrick's Day in 2024? Your department has sat on the answer for somewhat 7 months now. I think it would be good if you could confirm to the House today when I can expect an answer, or indeed the cost of the trip.
I'm quite sure we'll furnish you with that information. I don't have the detail as to why you don't have it yet, but we'll make sure we get it to you.
Question 2.
With your permission, Mr Speaker, I'm going to ask Junior Minister Eddie to take this question.
Thank you. Just last week we announced a £9 million extension to the Urban Villages Capital Plan. This will allow the development of 4 fantastic new projects in Belfast and Derry, providing much needed physical regeneration, creating safer communities and making a positive difference to people's lives. The updated capital plan also ensures the successful continuation of the 70 capital projects already being delivered across the 5 urban villages areas. The Urban Villages Initiative is currently providing funding for skills and training in areas such as capacity building and sustainability to all key project promoters. This is to ensure that they can deliver on long-term objectives as well as social, economic, environmental and good relations outcomes over the next few years.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and thank you to the Junior Minister for her answer. Just in terms of an update, could you provide one in regard to the next steps of this programme?
Junior Minister.
Yes, I can, and thank you for that question. We know the significant impact on the Urban Villages programmes and the impact that it has had in communities. Successful delivery of the remaining capital projects will increase access to shared space facilities and continue to promote integration across the 5 urban village areas and beyond. We have set out the strategic direction for urban villages, which will include completing the current Urban Villages plan with a focus on delivering the remaining capital portfolio projects. It will be investing over the next few years to help secure the sustainability of capital projects, which will be delivered through grant support for capacity building to support community organisations taking forward large capital projects, and also planning for the future by establishing a working group to take forward the development of Phase 2, which includes joint-up delivery between departments to catalyse the linkages Urban Villages has made in supporting ministerial priorities. This will fully demonstrate TEO's impact on the Urban Villages areas.
Murphy.
And I'd like to thank the Minister for her answer. Minister, can you give us any additional detail about what other specific projects have been added to the updated Urban Villages plan?
Yes, I can, and I thank the member for her question. In general terms, the Urban Villages Initiative has been supporting a range of community-led, cross-cutting and capital projects to improve good relations outcomes and to develop thriving places where there has previously been a history of deprivation and community tension. As of the 31st of January 2025, there has been £49.8 million in capital investment. Revenue investment is sitting at £15 million. Event attendees have reached in excess of 1.1 million and almost 3,500 training courses delivered, with almost 4,000 of those workshops. So the additional £9 million investment will allow Urban Villages to develop 4 new capital projects, and those are the Realm in Derry, which will see a range of high-quality public realm improvements across the Fountain, Bogside and Bishop Street. Westland Community Centre here in North Belfast, which will deliver a new community centre providing an innovative community-led service for the area. The Market Arches in the market area of Belfast, where 8 tunnels and former railway arches will be regenerated, providing new social and commercial spaces. And lastly, the School of Music in Donegal Pass in South Belfast, where the former School of Music will be home to a range of social economy, charitable and creative ventures. And these investments are making a real, tangible difference to the communities in which they are located.
Paula Bradshaw.
Ministers for the answers so far. I wonder, could you give us an outline of when the final draft of the review of the TBUC programme will come forward, with particular reference to the refreshed approach to good relations that's been talked about? Thank you.
Yeah, just in terms of the TBUC review is obviously underway, and a number of other good relations projects set under that. In terms of an actual time frame, I don't have that in front of me, but if you want the right news, I'm sure we'll give you a time frame on that.
Speaker, agus bríothas leis an éire fáinne a freagraí go dtí. Seo, Junior Minister, would you agree that there should be full transparency of what is being funded by urban villages, why, and the exact role of TEO in that? I ask because I'd recently asked the First Minister had she received an invite to the official opening of the Peacemakers Museum, a project that she had previously told me had nothing to do with the Executive Office. She said she hadn't, or at least didn't recall, receiving an invite to that. I've subsequently acquired through, Mr Speaker, through FOI that she had not only been invited to the official opening, but also subsequently that herself and the Deputy First Minister were invited to a pre-opening tour. Could the Junior Minister explain why these invitations weren't accepted or even recalled?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'm not sure of what the exact question was, but of course there should absolutely be full transparency. And like myself, I visited many urban villages projects, and it's clear that the transformative impact that has been achieved or is currently underway. Like, I look at the particular Colin area, my own constituency of West Belfast, which has been transformed and unrecognisable for the better, and we absolutely want to build on that, and that's why we have put together a working group to take forward the development of phase 2 of urban villages, which will also look at criteria. And I think we just have to remember that urban villages was a first. So of course we can absolutely learn from that for the next phase, what that looks like, how it can be approved on, and we will certainly look at doing that.
Move on to David Brooks.
Question 3.
Minister.
As the member will be aware, the purpose of the East West Council is to strengthen cooperation between us and other parts of the UK by bringing together key representatives from government, business, education, trade, transport and culture sectors, and also by encouraging collaboration between ministers and industry experts. The arrangements and timings for meetings of the Council are in the first instance the responsibility of the British Government, and these would inevitably reflect the availability of both their ministers and ours. We are, however, currently considering a number of potential dates for the next meeting of the Council and hope to be able to confirm those details in the near future. We should say that even in the absence of an East West Council, we've had numerous opportunities to engage with ministerial colleagues from other governments through other forums that have been set up for intergovernmental relations. Within the last year, we've attended 8 ministerial intergovernmental meetings, including meetings of the Interministerial Standing Committee, the Council of the Nations and Regions. The ministers are meeting with the Prime Minister, the heads of devolved governments council, as well as British-Irish Council summits.
Mr Brooks.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Speaking of some of those connections, would the First Minister agree with me that the establishment of Intertrade UK is an important step in terms of resolving some of the frictions with East-West trade?
Yeah, I don't know an awful lot about the workings of Intertrade UK apart from that it is to be established, and I think it's essential that any trade bodies work to iron out issues where they arise. I mean, I think that should be a principle that we all aspire to. We don't want to have disruption to trade, whether that's north, south, east, west. I don't want to see disruption to trade. I want free-flowing trade that allows us to benefit our people best by growing our economy and creating opportunities for growth. So where there are issues that arise, let's find pragmatic solutions to them. And we work with whatever bodies are in place to ensure that that's the case.
Just McNulty.
Count Carla, and thank the First Minister for her answers thus far. First Minister, given that one of the key missions of the Council is to offer advisory support to implement major projects, and as you have said, Casement Park will be built and will be built on your watch, have you and will you raise the issue of Casement Park with the British Government?
Well, I doubt the East West Council will be discussing Casement Park, with all due respect to the member, but I can assure the member that I raise the issue of Casement Park with the British Government on every turn.
Brian Kingston.
Question number 4.
As First Minister, I have taken the decision not to attend the events in Washington DC this year, but together with the Deputy First Minister we will join the NI Chamber of Commerce Trade delegation to North Carolina. The Deputy First Minister has confirmed that she will go to Washington DC, and that programme is still in final development. We will, of course, be happy to report back to the Chamber once all invitations have been received and considered.
Mr Hickson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The First Minister is aware from her previous answer of the whole series of events which takes place in Washington DC in the week of St Patrick's Day, in addition to the Shamrock ceremony in the White House, and all of those provide excellent opportunities to promote the interests of people in Northern Ireland. So does she not acknowledge that she should, if she truly wants to be a First Minister for all, she should set aside her personal and party preference for which party occupies the presidency, and to join the Deputy First Minister in attending as many events in Washington DC as she can that week?
First Minister.
Well, firstly, let me be very clear to you. This is not about party politics. This is about humanity. This is about standing up against injustice. This is about taking a stand whenever a US administration have decided to annex the people of Palestine off their land, when they have moved away from a two-state solution, a solution that we all should want to see delivered in the Middle East. I want to see peace and security for the Palestinians and the Israelis, and I want to use every effort that conceivably is possible out there, every international effort to work towards that agenda. Unfortunately, that is not the resolve of this current US administration. So at this point in time, I am taking a stand for humanity, and I am taking a stand against injustice. I can do that whilst also alongside that advocating for our local economy, which is what I do. I've engaged with many US presidents from all different, both sides of the House. We have many friends on Capitol Hill who come in a bipartisan way support the Good Friday Agreement. Those relationships will endure. We have strong relationships with trade unions in the United States. We have strong economic links with businesses. We attract investment, we also export. So I think we have a mutual relationship with which to continue to build. I'm very assured, actually, by the fact that both the Deputy First Minister and myself will attend North Carolina. That's part of the Northern Ireland Chamber economic event. Our Economy Minister, Kiva Archibald, will be in Boston and will be in New York. Our economic links will continue. But there always comes a time in our life whenever we should take a stand. And at this moment in time, I side with humanity.
Ms. Sheeran.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the First Minister for her answer.
That it is essential that we continue to maximise economic opportunities within the US.
Yes, I think I've said that. I absolutely do. I mean, if you even reflect on our own long-standing links, those roots that I say run very, very deep. We should be very proud of the work that we have done to actually grow those relationships over the years, and actually, in particular, those economic links. Like the US is our largest export market outside of Britain, the single largest source of high-value FDI, including in our priority sectors for future growth. So that economic work needs to continue. We can do that whilst also taking a stand at a certain moment in time. But we have leading delegate Kiva Archibald, as the Economic Minister, is leading delegations. We ourselves, myself and the Deputy First Minister, will be in North Carolina. We will be there to sign Memorandum of Understanding between the Chamber of Commerce and North Carolina. We'll be part of the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding, couldn't think of the title of it, between the Chamber here and the North Carolina Commerce. But I think that in itself gives us a unique platform in which to go in and sell our wares. So we'll continue to drive on with the economic work to basically enhance our own economy, to grow investment, to create jobs, to grow our economy. That's what's front and centre of our programme for government, and that's what we are determined to do.
Minister, our party always argues against boycotts. Other parties like boycotts. Some parties complain about boycotts, then boycott themselves. Now, could I just ask the First Minister to be absolutely clear here that the Deputy First Minister will be going to the White House to represent Northern Ireland?
Yes, the Deputy First Minister will be there representing our office. I am not going to stand in the way in the Deputy First Minister's. She has her view, I have mine. We can have respect for each other's view.
Blair.
Mr Speaker, question number 5.
Minister.
With your permission, Cairn Junior Minister Riley will take this question.
Thank you. We are committed to updating and strengthening racial equality law so that everyone can benefit from a fair and inclusive society. Following an extensive 12-week consultation on the review of the Race Relations Order, a report on the responses was published last August, which included more than 50 potential changes. We intend to introduce the legislation to the Assembly as part of the 25-26 legislative programme, which will move us a step closer to providing the best possible legal protection against racial discrimination and ensuring that everyone is valued and treated equally.
Mr. Blair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Junior Minister for that answer. But can I ask, given that race hate incidents are continuing as seen sadly in South Belfast at the weekend and to worrying extent in my own constituency of South Antrim last summer, and given that the consultation was such a long time ago, could we have today some detail as to what work has actually been done on drafting these amendments?
Minister.
Thank you for that additional question. I think we all agree that having a diverse society only enriches the cultural and economic life for absolutely everybody that calls here home, because we want a society where people are protected and treated equally. I think we can agree that that's what we all want, and our officials have already started with engaging with the minority ethnic sector to support and develop how we move forward to racial equality beyond 2025. And as I mentioned in my opening answer, we do intend to bring legislation forward in the 25-26 period. We have seen how disgraceful behaviours in recent times, and again at the weekend in South Belfast, by those trying to put fear in our communities, and we utterly condemn these attacks and stand with those who are targeted. Tackling racism and racial inequality is a priority for us, and so is making sure that there's legislation to protect them.
Can the Minister provide an update on the refugee integrated strategy, please?
Yes, I can, and I'm delighted to say that the First and Deputy First Minister have approved a refugee integration strategy and an associated delivery framework, which will be brought to the Executive next month for agreement.
Matthew O'Toole.
Pleased, Junior Minister, that there will be the refugee integration strategy, so I acknowledge that that's progress. But this document contains, I think by my count, 7 or 8 words on tackling racism after not just the weekend of violence, the violence we saw last summer in Belfast, but the attack this weekend. People of colour deserve better than warm words. They deserve clarity and focus. A standalone hate crime bill. Finally, this order being updated after years. A racial equality strategy. Why is this so absent from the programme for government?
Minister.
Let me just start again by reiterating that racism and hate has absolutely no place in our society. And again, I mentioned the disgraceful behaviours that have come during the summer and the behaviours that come with that. Again, it was absolutely disgraceful to see racist graffiti in South Belfast, but we will absolutely call that out at every opportunity, and work is being done. Our officials have started work on a review of the racist attacks here in the summer to include why it happened, the response to it, who was involved, and actions to prevent them from happening again. The Executive Office formed and do chair a cross-departmental working group, and there is an application in potentially funded under Peace Plus for an area-based education and myth-busting piece. A piece of work which has been submitted, and if that's successful, it will aim to build positive relations in our communities that we would hope will address potential future incidents of racism.
Robbie Butler.
Mr. Speaker.
We recognise the immense economic, historical and reconciliation potential of the site and are committed to working with the Board to maximise that potential for the benefit of all. Pending decisions on the way forward, the Development Corporation is currently charged with maintaining and managing the site, carrying out essential health and safety works and supporting the existing tenants. The role of the Board is to provide leadership, strategic direction and guidance to ensure that the MLK effectively discharges its obligations and fulfils the aims and objectives agreed with TEO. The Board also seeks to maintain a state of readiness for future development. This includes continuing engagement with TEO officials in considering possible approaches for regeneration of the site and provision of advice and options for the future.
Mr. Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank the First Minister for her answer. TEO have indeed had the reins of the MLK site for over a decade now, and the Board have obviously proffered examples under their tenure. However, the Lisburn Council have their development plan. And under the current Sinn Féin DUP First Minister and Deputy First Ministership, are we actually going to see tangible change and delivery of economic opportunity in Lagan Valley for the people that have been promised it for so long?
Yeah, I mean, I think this site has the opportunity to be so transformative. So I do want us to get there. We need a political agreement, obviously, to get there. And I'm working to make sure that we can hopefully get to that point. I mean, the board's there, it's doing its job, it's working away in terms of the maintenance of the site, ensuring that it is ready for development. And there also have been some, obviously, developments on the site itself. But the potential there is yet to be untapped. But we've spoken before in this House around the potential for the site. I can assure you that's what I want to achieve on this site, and I'll work to try to get the political agreement that's required to ensure that we can have the site opened up, and the economic benefit that comes from it will be just transformational, in my opinion.
Linda Dillon.
Corley, and thank the First Minister for answers. First Minister, thank you for committing to working with the board to maximise the potential for the benefit for everybody right across our community. Can you confirm that the regeneration of the site remains a key priority for the Executive?
First Minister.
Yeah, I mean, as I said in the previous answer, I mean, I do think this is an area that has got massive potential and something that we must really, really tap into. I mean, you can see the regeneration of the site in the same vein, if you like, as other transformation projects like Windsor Park, the Kingspan, the Ebrington site, Crumlin Road Jail, and also that we'll see in Casement Park. So these are all huge opportunities for us to develop sites, and we must get on with doing it because they're economic game changers. They mean so much to the local community in terms of even rate take for the local community. It's also what that means for local investment in councils. They just can be such game changers. So we know what the barriers are. We have to continue to try to make progress, but I suppose there needs to be a political agreement as to how we would move forward. But let's do it in a way that obviously delivers benefits for everybody. Do it in a way that allows us to deal with the sensitivities that there are. But I mean, I visited the site last year along with the Deputy First Minister. We met with the board. I mean, I certainly am really, I don't need to be convinced of what we could achieve on that site if we can get a political agreement in which to do so.
All right, Harvey.
Can the First Minister brief members on whether their ambulance will remain on the site? Thank you.
First Minister.
Absolutely, we're very committed to their ambulance on the site, an amazing charity which everybody knows. They work in partnership with the Department of Health to provide the helicopter emergency medical service from the site. Been called out over 4,500 times, so I think their work there speaks for itself, and we're going to continue to work with the corporation. Will continue to work with our ambulance to ensure their potential on the site, because there's a potential for them to have a longer term base there, which would move away from the temporary current situation.
Stuart Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, First Minister, for your answers so far. First Minister, given the inability to reach agreement on the use of this site, can you tell us how the work of the board is evaluated in terms of its value for public money, and also how it works through its objectives, given that there are no agreed objectives for the use of the site?
Yeah, well, I mean, their objectives are very much aligned with the development's corporation's current remit, which includes the maintaining and managing of the site itself. They also have to carry out essential health and safety works and support the existing tenants itself. And the corporation continues to seek as far as possible to maintain a state of readiness for future development, and this includes continuing to consider possible approaches to regeneration of the site and provide advice and options for the future as and when required. And in terms of value for money, they are dealt with in terms of any other public body in terms of value for money, so absolutely accountable for every penny spent in terms of accountability. So that's not something that I believe that we're concerned about. In terms of the budget itself, I can't remember the exact budget. I think it's $1 million resource or $1 million capital that they oversee over the course of a year. But yes, we're assured that all public accountability mechanisms are in place for the board.
Moving on to topicals, call Matthew O'Toole.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First Minister, over the weekend, the Deputy Leader of the Alliance Party said the Deputy First Minister was responsible for causing delays and blocking progress in the Executive. Do you agree with him?
Look, at times things don't move as quickly as we all would want them to move, and I think that can be true of all ministers at different times. I'm not here to point score off anybody today. I'm here to get business done.
The reason I ask, First Minister, is by the look of this document with Zero progress on casement, exactly the same language as in the draft programme for government. Zero progress on the Irish language. DUP Tory bodies like the East West Council and Intertrade UK placed on the same footing as Good Friday Agreement bodies like Intertrade Ireland and the North-South Ministerial Council. Much less ambition than the Irish Government's programme for government on shared island or cross-border services. People will conclude that the DUP is running rings around you and your party. So, First Minister, can you tell us who's taking who for a fool? Is the DUP taking your party for fools, or is your party taking the rest of us for fools?
First Minister.
I think that's more of a fool's question, to be quite honest. Look, I have said from day one that I'll work constructively with the opposition, but there's making a point and there's using question time to the best effect, or there's just getting up and playing games. That's playing games. I am determined to lead in the executive, to work with the Deputy First Minister, to work with all ministers of the executive, because there are 4 parties around that executive table. It's a 4-party executive, and I am committed to making it work. The rest of the 4 parties here turn up every day to try to make it work despite the challenges. So you have the luxury of sitting out in comfort, biting from the sidelines. The rest of us are focused on actually the rest of us are trying, if you'd let me finish my point, the rest of us are trying to get the work done. So throughout the course of today, we'll have the programme for government discussion. You can have your say on how you feel about all of that. But the rest of us will focus, the 4 parties of the executive will focus on trying to get things done. The executive's not perfect. If anybody walked in here on day one thought it was going to be, then they were very mistaken. The rest of us, as I said, are committed to working together to deliver for people.
Melissa McHugh.
Minister, could you confirm for me that all the land necessary for the expansion of McGee College in Derry has now been acquired?
Yes, I was very pleased last week that the Economy Minister, Dr Keith Archibald, announced that the land had been purchased, and that was obviously a key part of the McGee expansion. So I am delighted to confirm that we've reached the important milestone with all 3 sites now acquired to accommodate the growth to 10,000 students by 2032. The expansion of McGee has the potential to be a real economic game changer in the North West, helping to attract investment, create more jobs and better opportunities, and to showcase everything that the region has to offer. So it's another step in the right direction as we continue to work towards the 10,000 students at the campus.
Mr McHugh.
And could you confirm for me as well, Minister, that you will do everything in your power to ensure that we reach that target of 10,000 students in the Derry campus?
Yes, I can absolutely give that assurance. I think that this has been a commitment from the Sinn Féin ministers in the economy brief from day one, both Conor and now Kiva, continuing that vital work. But we will continue to work side, because these things happen in partnership, and you get so much more done whenever you work in partnership. So it's about the executive working with Derry City and Strabane Council and the university itself to deliver on what we all share, which is that transformative vision for Derry, creating enormous and exciting opportunities for everyone who calls the North West home.
Owen Tennyson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. First Minister, you'll be aware that last week the Secretary of State announced his intention to appoint an interlocutor to effectively negotiate with active paramilitary organisations. Given your responsibilities for good relations and tackling violence against women and girls, do you agree that that situation is disgraceful and shameful?
Minister. Yeah, I want to be absolutely clear that it's a long time past that these groups even exist in today's society. We're now 27 years post the Good Friday Agreement, and there's no space for these people to exist in our society. These are groups of people that exist to keep their foot on the necks of the communities in which they live. So we should be doing it all to ensure that they are disbanded. But this initiative by the 2 governments is for them to answer to. But I share your concerns in terms of anything that comes forward cannot be something that is like, let's throw money at these groups. I don't agree with that. Let's do nothing that allows them, or the government shouldn't do anything that allows the groups to exist for even longer. So I share your views.
Mr Tennyson.
First Minister, for that answer. First Minister, would you then commit alongside the Deputy First Minister to make representations to the Secretary of State that this is not in the name of those of us in this Assembly chamber?
Yep. Well, we're yet to speak about it in terms of an agreed executive position. I can assure you that both governments will be aware of my views, and I'm sure every other party in the House will take the same opportunity to make their views known also.
Flynn.
Can the First Minister provide an update on the Executive's plan for cutting childcare costs, please?
Minister.
Yeah, and this is one of those issues that is very much highlighted in our programme for government that's being discussed today. Cutting childcare costs and keeping money in the pockets of struggling families has been a day one priority for our executive. And recently, I was really pleased that we were able to double the funds. So we've actually went from investing 25 million initially to totaling 50 million for this year in terms of the draft budget. And that's all about us trying to make childcare more affordable for parents, supporting struggling providers, and also creating more places for children with additional needs, because we need to be inclusive. And we've also included it, as I said, as a programme for government priority, because that puts it up in lights as this is something that the four parties of the executive are committed to delivering upon. Childcare is one of those most pressing issues in our society right now, and in particular the burden of childcare falls on women. So feeling like, and quite often we're all meeting women who tell us that they don't think they have any option other than to stay at home because the cost of childcare. So this is one of those things that this executive needs to deliver upon, and one that I believe that all four parties of the executive are willing and ready to participate on and deliver upon.
Ms Flynn.
Thanks very much, First Minister, for a response. Will the First Minister continue to work closely with the entire executive team to try and further reduce these costs?
Yes, I think we've demonstrated what we can do in these first 16, 17 months. The fact that we have prioritised it, the fact that we've already put money towards it, the fact that we've made advances in it. But also that's not to be complacent, because we know that there's still an awful lot more to be done on this front. So for our part, I can say to the member that yes, childcare is a priority. Yes, we're going to continue to invest in childcare. Yes, we're going to be inclusive in that. And yes, we're going to help take the burden from families, but also help our providers to be able to provide the spaces that are there and ensure that we bring down costs for families. So it's about accessibility, it's about the cost factor, it's about ensuring that we have the right number of places in the right areas as well.
Before I call Mr Baker, I notified the Assembly some weeks ago of the dress code introduced by Mr McLaughlin. When I was Speaker, I'll only call Mr Baker because he's on the list. So, Mr Baker.
Can the First Minister provide an update to the Chamber on the new Children's Hospital?
Mr.
Yes, I can. The announcement of a £671 million investment in a new state-of-the-art children's hospital is a fantastic news for children and families right across our society. They will provide children in need of care with the best facilities and the latest technology, offering them world-class healthcare right here at home. It's obviously an enormous investment in children here and in healthcare more widely, and I look forward to seeing the positive impact it will have on so many lives from young patients and so many lives from young patients and their families, also right through to the dedicated healthcare workers who provide invaluable care.
Mr Baker.
First Minister, does the First Minister agree with me that the project will be a game changer for families right across the north?
Yes, I absolutely do, and myself and the Deputy First Minister had the pleasure of being down on site last week to actually see for ourselves the plans to meet with some of the staff. And there's no doubt it's going to be a real game changer for caring for our very sick children, and just the experience that will bring to, at that time, difficult time for any family, is going to be really very much improved, but also for the staff, because in speaking to those staff that work in the current more difficult surroundings, I think it'll be a real pleasure for them to go to work as they provide excellent care to our young people. So I think once completed, and we really look forward to that day, but once completed it's going to be a real game changer for children and young people right across the north.
First Minister, given your comments and actions around Palestine, do you agree and support the deal announced by the UK Government in relation to Belfast company Thales to supply 5,000 missiles to Ukraine?
Sure.
Well, firstly, I think that the focus of the international community should always be to work towards negotiation and peace settlements. That's my approach to these things. It's only through lasting peace, genuine engagement, constructive engagement, that you actually arrive at a peace solution. Our own example here will tell us that. So I think for me, when it comes to the support of the European countries for Ukraine, then that's absolutely needs to be solid, and I welcome the fact that we have that back on an even keel, and there's no ambiguity around European support for ending the war in Ukraine.
Ms Ogden.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I think to come back to the specific question, given that particular company's role in relation to Palestine, do you support the £1.6 billion deal with the UK Government announced this morning?
No, I think, I find it really incredulous that at a time whenever public services are being cut left, right and centre, at a time when we've endured 14 years of austerity, at a time whenever winter fuel payments are being cut from older people, at a time where lots of small local businesses are going to go to the wall because they can't afford the national insurance hikes, at a time whenever our farmers are worried because of the inheritance tax, I think at a time like that, rather than buying weapons of war, I would rather see the money invested in public services.
Doug Biddy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Minister, for your answers. Minister, during the Troubles, terrorists and paramilitaries of all flavours were involved in some heinous crimes, but some including intimidation, coercive control, child abuse, sexual abuse, up into including rape. Yet the TEO does not keep a record of these convictions when handing out funding to them. Is that a sustainable position?
I'm quite sure that whenever there comes to any funding that's handed out through TEO or any other department, that all due diligence is applied, as in any funding application that's received for any department and any grant application.
Mr. Biddy.
Thank you, Minister. You don't, because the answer says you don't keep a list. So the question is that the position you'll take when you're putting out funding for ending violence against women and girls? Because we could have people who are involved in domestic abuse, sexual abuse, rape and child abuse receiving funding, and nobody wants that.
Of course nobody wants that, and particularly around these sensitive areas, but let's not make policy on the hoof. Let's be very considerate about how we do things. In order to bring forward policies such as that, then you need to ensure that you have proper documentation and lists, and you're able to refer to records. So let's not make policy on the hoof. I get the general point about making sure that funding and any application for funding, you can stand over it. I think that's an important point.
Eva Finnegan.
Can Corlia, does the First Minister share concerns with me about the devastating impact of the planned hikes in national insurance contributions?
First Minister.
Yes, I do, and I just referred to it there. Can I welcome the member to the Assembly Chamber, having newly joined us? You're very welcome, and I look forward to engaging with you. Can I say that, yes, I think the national insurance hike for national insurance for contributions is going to be deeply concerning, and is deeply concerning for so many of our small businesses. And all of us will have been contacted by some business that's actually afraid that they're going to have to close their doors, let off staff, because they don't know how they're going to absorb the cost of the national insurance contributions. We have raised this at every turn with the British Government, with the Treasury. I know the Finance Minister has done so and will continue to do so. Last week, John O'Dowd, our Finance Minister, he met with the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, and he made this case directly to him. And as an executive, we have a collective view to ensure that we continue to call for a change of approach. It's not too late. There is still time for this to be changed. Our local businesses cannot absorb this cost. We need there to be a rethink in terms of the policy position taken by the Labour Government.
Ms Finnegan.
For the First Minister's answers, and just to reiterate, the First Minister, do you agree the public sector employers must be fully supported by the British Government to meet these costs?
Minister.
Yeah, because the challenges are really being felt acutely across the public sector, which was already challenged and struggling because of 14 years of austerity. So, put simply, whenever you're trying to deal with all those years of underfunding, then to lump this additional cost on top of all of that is going to be catastrophic for many people. So I again call from this Assembly today for a rethink of that policy. The national insurance contribution hike is going to damage so many people, including our public sector, with a lot of businesses out there that are really, really worried about this. We will continue to do all that we can, and I can assure the member that we will not give up the fight in terms of fighting the case for local people here.
Thank you. First Minister, if members just take their ease for a moment.